Hello there, welcome to the show. Today I'm going to talk about Captain America Civil War, the new Marvel release. Okay, first of all I'm going to give a brief impression of the film without any spoilers, then I'll go into the spoiler-filled section. Okay, I mean, the basic thing about Captain America Civil War is terrific. It's one of those films that just works. I mean, it's pulp, it's based on a ridiculous premise that these superheroes exist, things like that. What would happen if you try to put laws against them? I mean, that's a kind of silly idea, but it works because it's playing around the idea of people who think they're above the law, above everything. How do you control them? I mean, it's a pulp idea. It's a mythical. There's mythical elements to it. They go all the way back to like the idea of how you control the gods and Greek mythology, things like that. It's a human urge to control people, and these become metaphors of like how do you control, you know, government, things like that. What do you do? What's the best way? So it implies that kind of stuff if you're interested, but still the basic plot is how do you control these superheroes. So I mean, within that groundwork of fantasy, the film really works. It still keeps a realistic feel to the action to a certain point. The characters are well defined, they're witty, they get a lot across without that much detail. That's what's really nice, is the fact is they make everything count. The central antagonism between Tony Stark and Captain America works because it's developed slowly but surely. And the thing is, neither of them are trying to have a fight. I mean, the whole thing is they end up having fights, but they're trying to avoid it for as long as possible, and it's always a situation that gets out of control. So all that works. The performances are terrific. I mean, even down to the smaller characters who come in for a few scenes, make an impression, move on again. They all deliver. So I mean, everything just really works. I mean, it's well written. It's very well directed. Everything is on point. You never feel lost. You never feel bored. Everything's always leading to the next thing, but you always feel as if it's organic. It's not plot orientated enough so that you feel that you're getting fed what they need. You're getting fed the character details that build the next story element, which builds the next story element. It's not the Batman vs Superman where you felt that we're getting pushed into certain areas to get into the fight. This one feels a lot more organic, so that's all very good. The whole film is just really worth seeing. I mean, there are elements that you can linger below the surface with, but just in a very straight storytelling pulp level, it delivers what you expect. Even the villain's good, because the villain turns out to be someone different from what you expect in this kind of movie. He's not into spoilers, but what he wants is different from the average villain in this kind of movie. So that's nice and unexpected. I mean, it's gotten some criticism from some, saying it's another weak Marvel villain, but this one I think is different. It's intentionally different, so I think it gets a pass because it's like, you know, it's the villains of the movie in lots of ways are Iron Man and Captain America and how they interact. So it's a different approach to how you have the villain in the movie. So that all just really works. So now I've covered all of that. It's definitely worth seeing. I'm going to go into spoiler territory because it's a lot easier to talk about the film if you can talk about the film rather than talking about what's been shown in the trailers. So I'll start off with basically saying the really good thing of this film is that it ends with ambiguity. No one's right and no one's wrong. Both sides in the actual fight have flaws in their arguments, have severe flaws in their arguments, and the thing escalates so that nothing's ever taken into consideration the way it really needs to. So the whole thing is, it moves along with freight train the whole way, and that's the problem with all the situation is no one puts the brakes on and says, what do you think about this? This is more serious than, you can't just jump into the situation. So time becomes the enemy of the story, actually, of the characters, because just as I find a foot in one situation, something else happens, which makes it a great story, but it means it escalates the conflict to something that gets out of control very fast. which is terrific. It's a really good idea, is that time is the thing that actually is going against everybody, because no one has a chance to breathe and take stock. So I mean, that's terrific. There's also the fact that at the end of it, people are left with what has happened and have to make new lives out of compromised situations because of what they've done, and no one gets off scot-free. Everybody is damaged and everybody has a point of view. So it's like, it's not that they've reverted back to mode zero from the end of the film. It's like they're now in a situation where they can't really reset it, so they have to do something else. So that's a really nice way to end the film. It's very ambiguous. Doesn't clarify. It doesn't tell you what to expect from the next Avengers movie. You suspect certain things will happen, like Cap and a lot of the former Avengers are now on the run. So you suspect that'll be the plot. The first one is they become the Avengers, but they're underground. That could be very interesting. But and Tony's pretty much alone by the end of it. So it's the payoff. Like, everyone gets to the point where they're heading. On one extreme, Tony Stark is basically, and somebody's doing the right thing, but he's done it in such the wrong way that he's alienated most people that were his friends. And Cap's gone to such an extreme that he's alienated the rest of the world from his point of view, so that he has to go underground with his friends, and he's affected their lives in negative ways as well. So no one gets off scot-free, which is nice, because they don't reset it the way. Even though Batman vs Superman died there and you knew he wasn't really dead, they still kind of set it up as no one paid for their actions ultimately, because Superman dies, but he's going to come back, and Batman is still a grumpy bugger. So they're going to spell the Justice League, but no one actually pays for their stupidity. In this one, people pay for stupidity. Everyone has a price they have to pay eventually by the end of the film, which is terrific. So any of the characters who have been compromised or have made to stand with something, they ultimately have to reap the consequences of what happened. So that's terrific. I mean, the great thing about the film, even in the beginning, it's based on, what's the worst nightmare of what could happen. The whole thing is almost like this nightmare situation that barrels out of control. It's almost like the nightmare version of a superhero film. Like, it's what everything they're scared of in these movies happen. This all happens in this movie. It's really like a kind of nightmare comedy, but with superheroes. It's the after hours of superhero movies, where just everything goes wrong, and it's the nightmare logic that takes them down this path that ends up throwing them against the wall, basically. So basically, the start of the film, Tony's kind of feeling guilty about Ultron because he created Ultron that almost destroyed the planet, and so he's very guilty and he's pushed everyone away from himself. And at the same time, Captain America is leading the Avengers, and basically they go in to solve a problem, and it all goes wrong. I mean, they save the world from this biological warfare, but people get killed in an accident, and that's the last straw for everyone. Even though they were doing something good, now everyone now wants. So because of this, the last of 3 or 4 things have happened have caused mass destruction and lots of death. It's like we have to get these people under control, which is very reasonable. If people were like that, you want them under control. So that's a very reasonable setup for what's going on, for this fantasy situation. So it's like, how do you control these people with enormous power? Again, like, how do you control politicians or gods? Like, what do you put into place to actually put limitations on them? Because people with power always find ways to get out of the limitations, and it causes problems. So in this case, the world's had enough. They've had enough mass murder, even though it's for reasons to protect the world from these threats. They think that these people should be accountable and they should actually be under some sort of UN control. because Tony's guilty about what happened with Ultron, because it was all his fault, he agrees, he thinks it's the best thing to go and do this, and also it's inevitable. So they have to work within the new setup. And Captain America thinks differently. He was involved in the situation went wrong, and he feels that because of his past, he's been in situations where he's found out the people he's working for were corrupt, and he thinks that the UN is made up of lots of people, and there'll be a lot of corruption. It'll end up being used as police, and it'll be used inappropriately, and it won't be able to solve problems they should be solving, and they'll be used to beat down people they shouldn't. So he's like, we can't do this, this is wrong. So that's the situation, and because it's pushed through so quick, the politicians push it through so quick, no one really articulates what the other side is, so they don't have a chance to actually discuss it in any real way, so people can work out a compromise so that everyone gets what they want. Instead it's pushed through, like basically William Hart's one of the villains really, because he's the Secretary of State, and he's obviously pushed it through in the background, and he's really working against them, but he's actually a friend. So he's like pushing it through, so by the time anyone has a chance to really think about it, it's already law. And during the time that happens, when I try and make it law, a building is blown up, and Bucky Barnes, which is Captain America's old friend, is set up as the assassin. That causes a lot of problems because Steve wants to investigate it, but he's told he's not allowed to because of these new ratifications, which drives him nuts. And obviously he's very loyal to his friend to a fault. Everyone's still hoping he just stays out of it and let the police deal with this. And basically Steve can't. And here's how it gets interesting. It's basically Captain America spots there's something wrong with this situation, and he wants to talk to Bucky to find out what actually happened. And his instinct is there's something dodgy, and it turns out he's right, there is something dodgy. But the way he goes about it is so extreme that he alienates everybody. And he forces Iron Man to come in and have to deal with it. So he makes a mistake that it's understandable, but it's a mistake that creates a situation where he can't get back out and get any trust from anybody. And he's so loyal that again it'll cause him more havoc, and he's now very suspect in the eyes of the world. And that's really nice because it puts him in a situation where he's half right, half wrong. And at this point, his objections to these accords become obvious, as like they're not adaptable enough to what's actually going on. And Tony starts to become more of a pusher for the other side, is having controls and signing this and agreeing to these regulations. But he's completely ignoring the other side is that they can be abused. So he's rushed in so quickly that he hasn't thought it through. Just like he does in every other movie. He's meant to be a genius, and he is a genius character, but he's a massive blind spot. It's just like every movie in the Marvel with Iron Man's in it is basically, what's Tony's new blind spot? He's just so many of them. And he just didn't spot it, and it becomes his major flaw in the film. It's his flaw is he doesn't think it through, and his flaw gets punished because it causes havoc down the line. And because he's stuck to this path, and he's now linked in with these politicians, he can't really pull back in any way, so he has to keep moving forward. And the whole movie is, he's trying to find a peaceful solution to everything. He's really trying his best. So he's not the villain of the piece, he's trying his best. And it just never works. It blows out, it becomes a nightmare of him trying to be a good citizen, and it fails completely. Him trying to control one of his friends, it fails completely because he doesn't understand his place in a situation of how he's actually causing some problems. He sees himself as a natural, logical person here, and he doesn't realise he's actually just in a flawed logic as well. Arguing with someone who's also got some flawed logic, so it's like the two people who should be making decisions in this story are the ones who are driving the story, so it causes havoc. And that pretty much leads to the Civil War, where Cap has to go to run. He realises there is a conspiracy that Bucky has been framed, and he has to try and work out what the conspiracy is. He finds leads and he has to get out and go to Siberia to find out what is the origin of the Winter Soldier and the origin of the super soldiers. He has to try and go and find the solution to the problem. Well, Cap's trying to bring it, Iron Man's trying to bring him in. So Iron Man brings in his team, which is Vision, which is Black Widow, Spider-Man comes in, War Machine. Meanwhile, Cap's got his team, which is Hawkeye, Scarlet Witch, Falcon, Winter Soldier, and Ant-Man. And it creates a great big fight in an airport which lasts about 20 minutes, and it's brilliant. It's worth seeing the movie for that one scene. The rest of the movie's brilliant, but this is something special. It's really inventive. Everyone fights against each other. So it's before you get bored with one pairing, they switch to something else and switch to something else. So there's highlights like Hawkeye versus Tony, Iron Man, basically, where Hawkeye uses the fact that Iron Man underestimates him. So he uses himself as a distraction so someone else can get Iron Man behind his back. That's a nice little touch. And there's Spider-Man versus Giant Man, which Ant-Man can grow. And putting Spider-Man against him is hilariously fun. And Falcon versus Spider-Man, great fun. I mean, they're great. They team up so well, all of them. It's just great fun to watch them fight. Because you finally get a fight between all these characters. And even though they don't want to fight, I mean, the objective is Captain wants to get to a plane and Tony has to stop him and arrest him. And that's it. But there's lots of variations. And people's loyalties are tested. People switch sides because they start to realise that maybe they're not on the right side. And it just delivers what you want. I mean, I'm not going to say much more about that because it's already been talked about a lot, and you just have to see it for yourself, really. This early on, it's just see this thing for yourself. It's so good. So it's a wonderful sequence. And that leads to the finale, really, where they go to Siberia, they find where the Winter Soldier was kept, and you basically find that the villain who'd been setting this whole thing up, Baron Zemo, was doing it basically out of revenge because of Age of Ultron, where he was his family was killed during the Ultron finale, and basically he became a shell of a man. He just couldn't function after that. So he gets revenge. And he gets revenge by studying the Avengers and turning them on each other and manipulating their weaknesses. And he doesn't expect to get out of this alive. He's just going to do it and destroy them, and he doesn't care what happens to himself. Because he's been so defined by rage and so defined by revenge. And that's a really nice motivation for a villain. It's like he doesn't care, he just wants these people to pay for the pain they've caused other people. And it's especially him, and it's justified. It's like, yeah, this is like the heart of the problem the world has. Instead of just keeping it as a distant thing, the world has a problem with Avengers, they make it personal, this villain. So you can see, yeah, they have a point, this is out of control. It's not just these two sides fighting, it's three sides. And no one gets off scot-free. So it's much more complicated than normal. And that's what's nice about it. Even though it's pulp, they bring it to human terms. And basically by the end, you find that he's actually destroyed the Winter Soldier program. The villain destroys all those super soldiers because he doesn't want these abominations causing problems. And he basically sets Iron Man vs Cap for the finale by revealing that the Winter Soldier under orders killed Tony Stark's parents. So even though Tony knows that this guy was basically brainwashed and had no real choice, he's still going to go for revenge, and it causes the massive fight between these three people. And it's not as epic as some of the other fights, but it's because it's an emotional, brutal thing. It really delivers. And basically, the nice touch is that they've switched sides in a way, because at this point Tony's actually the out of control character and Cap's one trying to do damage limitation, and that becomes a dynamic. And it's nice because it shows that no side's so clearly defined. Everyone can switch around a little bit because their emotions are out of control. And the whole point is these people have acted badly to the situation so badly they can be manipulated so easily, and times move so fast that they never have a chance to catch their breath. And everyone's kind of earned what's happened to them. I mean, just Tony has been compromised really badly with his ties to the government. Ultimately, the people who fought with Captain America are at the end of the film are in prison, in this super prison for, meant to be for villains, but all of a sudden all the heroes who have saved the planet countless times are now in prison because they made a choice to fight with Captain America because they thought he was right, that there was something wrong in the situation. They had to deal with it. And even though it went against what the world wanted, they felt it should be done. And the world wouldn't accept that anymore. So they've all had to be affected by what their choices were. And basically because of that, Tony's lost most of his friends. His other friend, War Machine, has been crippled. I mean, he had to walk with mechanical legs because of a mistake made by Vision, because of them getting a fight that Tony started because Tony was blind to the ramifications. So it was ultimately Tony's fault for what happened, and then his friend paid the price. All these things really work because it delivers. Because I mean, there's a great scene with Hawkeye and Iron Man where basically the fact that Hawkeye doesn't like Iron Man and Iron Man doesn't like him and they never really have got on, there's always kind of been tension between them, really pays off here because Hawkeye calls him out on all his crap and basically says, "This is what you wanted, everyone arrested." And even though Tony said, "What happened to your kids?" and all that, it's obviously he's lost the argument because someone's just kind of pricked his balloon and said, "Look, this is what you wanted, this is what you got. You've destroyed your friends." You know, it's a nice scene because ultimately it's true, even though Hawkeye and these other people have paid the price. And that's what's really good at the scenes is, even though there's characters like Scarlet Witch or Hawkeye who are only in it for like 3 or 4 scenes ultimately, if you think about it. They're in the big action scene, and they're in a few set-up scenes before that and a few after that. The scenes count because the characterization is so clear, the motivation is so clear, and what they're about in each scene is so clear that you feel like they're important in the movie. Everyone's important. Black Widow is spread out the whole movie. She's not in every scene, but everything she does is really important to the film as well because she's the one who has a step back from the situation. You can see where both sides are going wrong and is trying to warn both sides of going wrong, but they won't listen to her. She's the one with the brain in the film and of course the 2 guys that macho as hell don't listen to her and I think cause havoc. but she's basically, having Hawkeye, the 2 smartest people in the film, and both of them are pretty compromised by the end of it as well because of the actions of their friends. And Scarlet Witch is good because she's trying to control her power and she's uncomfortable and no one can quite guide her, and that creates a situation for her that's evolving. And Vision's trying to help her, but they're on opposite sides of the fight as well. So there's lots of nice character moments, and because they pay those character moments off in the last few films and bring them through here and put time into it, it pays off that Tony's situation ultimately the end is he's lost all his friends, and it actually delivers because you've seen him be with all these characters for the good times and the bad, and you know he's now very isolated. He's now no one really wants that much to do with him. I mean, at the end Captain America gives him an olive branch of, "If you need me, I'll be there," but it's obvious everything's been fractured and he's now alone and he has to deal with the fact he's pushed everyone away. And the Captain America character, he has to deal with the fact that he's lost this place in the world again. He started out being outside the world and now he's back to that place again because of his actions, his loyalty to Bucky, which ultimately led to the plot being resolved, but also led to such collateral damage, which was the point of the Accords, that he's kind of proving them right there's a problem, but he's also proving himself right as their solution is not the solution either. So it's end up he's delivered himself to a situation where he's now in the run, and that's a nice place to put him because it's you've got the ultimate like soldier suddenly been against his own government, and that's a nice place to leave him. And earned that place at the end of it, because he did things that were wrong, that were just more selfish, and he should have known better. He's for his mistakes as well. I mean, the good thing about the film is both the central characters act in character, and you get what's coming, so they don't play down the Tony's selfishness or Camp's selflessness. They play it up and show the cracks in what they're doing, and the cracks in the psychology. So it delivers a really nice movie. I think I've gone long enough about this film now. It's a terrific film. There's a lot more to say about it, but I think that's enough for now. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll continue looking at the Marvel films with 4 films and Ant-Man and Guardians of the Galaxy soon. So I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you later. Right, bye.